Hello, this is Patrick McCrory, or Packy McCrory, as I've always been known at home. And I'm at home here now, which is in Nottingham, in the dining room for a change rather than in the kitchen, as this is a preamble to the recipe for making soda bread, which is going to follow in 2 and 3 parts on a video online. And sometimes I wonder what authority I've got to try and advise anyone else to make soda bread. Well, having been born 70 years ago in the mountains, the Sperrin Mountains of County Tyrone, without electricity, water or television or telephone, and having to carry spring water from the well, I would have been brought up with my mother, like everyone else in the neighbourhood, making bread every day. Of course, we weren't allowed to, as children, we weren't allowed to go near any kitchen implements, and the bread was made on an open hearth fire, so that was far too dangerous. But the cradle, when we were born, would have also been next to the fire, as would the 100-weight bag of flour. And I think it is just possible that if every day of your early life and all of your childhood you would have been close to where your mother would have made bread on a daily basis, I think that you don't need to be instructed. You would have gained the very essence of how that bread was made and how it would look and feel and taste and smell. You'd have gained it by osmosis, not by any kind of instruction or any telling. And that is literally how I feel, that when I now turn a scone of soda bread out of a pan and tap it, I just know that's right. The same way as when I handle it, the very instant that the milk comes into contact with the flour, the smell of it, the texture, the reaction is instinctive. So I think this applies to any cookery, that it's not a scientific or chemical process. It's slightly more, it basically means that if one can only get the essence of what you're trying to achieve, then the measurements and the instructions can be almost discarded. But you will need instructions, and you will need measurements, and you will need temperatures initially, but eventually it'll be second nature, and you'll know when it's right. The proof of the pudding would be in the eating of it, and you'll soon adjust. When you do make mistakes and the bread is too heavy, you'll sort that out as well. So the other secret is that you must want to do it and enjoy doing it. It's not something to get over with. Bread was more than a filler. In Ireland, as in other parts of Europe, especially in France, people would eat bread with their tea. And there would be all different varieties of bread. I know that my mother was a noted baker. I wasn't aware of that when I was a child. but I can tell that when I have actually tasted bread from neighbouring houses, sometimes one would occasionally experience or encounter a piece of soda that hadn't been mixed or had been damp. And if ever that happened, you never forgot it. It was brown in colour and it tasted awful bitter. That would never have happened with my mother. And just on occasions, as well as soda bread, we would have a treat which would be treacle soda bread. And it was almost like a cake, I suppose, with black treacle in it. And it sort of caramelized, and it had to be, as with soda bread, it had to be left out on the windowsill to cool. And it was so delicious that even the birds would take pieces out of it. Or at least the birds got the blame. So I'm careful not to leave mine out to cool unless it's not out of sight.